You know, when we think about how history gets discovered, we picture experts with old maps, these grand, elaborate plans. But what if I told you that some of the most mind-blowing discoveries in human history weren't planned at all? They were just complete, and sometimes tragic, accidents.
So how do we actually find these lost worlds? How do you stumble upon a secret that's been buried for thousands of years, totally wiped from memory?
Well, the answer, way more often than you think, is just pure dumb luck. Yeah, these incredible stories, they don't start in some high-tech lab or a dusty library. They start with a simple, totally unexpected moment that just shatters everything we thought we knew.
And that brings us to our first story. Let's head to 1974. We're in a small farming village in northwest China, and they're in the middle of this just devastating drought. People are getting really, really desperate.
So with their crops totally failing, a few villagers decide their only shot is to dig a new well. One of the farmers, a guy named Yang Si-fa, is digging deep when his shovel hits something with this hard thump. It's definitely not a rock. So he keeps digging, clearing away all that dry soil, and then, slowly, a face starts to emerge from the dirt. A life-sized head made of terracotta.
And what Yang had found, that was just the beginning. I mean, the absolute tip of the iceberg. That one broken head led to the unearthing of an entire silent army. We're talking over 8,000 life-size soldiers, and get this, every single one has a unique face. Plus horses, chariots, all of it buried for 2,000 years to guard China's first emperor in the afterlife. A ghost army that nobody even knew was there, found by a farmer who was just looking for some water.
But here's the really tragic part of the story. The government seized all the land to build a museum. The villagers, including Yang, were forced to leave their homes. The very men who made one of the greatest archaeological finds in history were basically written out of their own story, and a lot of them fell into just desperate poverty. For them, this world-changing discovery didn't bring any fortune. It literally cost them everything.
Okay, so for our next story, we're going from the dry earth of China all the way to the coast of South Africa. And here, another accident didn't just uncover a piece of history, it brought a creature pretty much back from the dead and completely rewrote a chapter of evolutionary biology. So to really get how insane this next discovery is, you have to know this. The coelacanth was a fish that scientists only knew from fossils. It was supposed to have vanished 65 million years ago, right along with the dinosaurs. Gone. Extinct. And then, in 1938, off the coast of South Africa, a fishing boat just caught one. And this is where luck meets some serious determination. A local museum curator, Marjorie Courtney Latimer, was just doing her rounds, checking the day's catch, when she sees this bizarre, 5-foot-long, shiny blue fish. She just knew it was special, but the only expert who could help was away for the holidays. So, with this fish literally rotting in the sun, she makes a choice. She gets a taxidermist to preserve it. Weeks later, when the expert finally got back, he was just stunned. She had single-handedly saved a living fossil.
So why was this fish such a big deal? Well, look at its fins. They're these unique lobed fins, and they paddle in a way that looks a lot like walking legs. Scientists realized they were looking at a living link, a direct connection to the very first creatures that crawled out of the ocean onto land. A distant, swimming ancestor to every land animal on Earth. Yeah, including us.
Our final story is, well, it might be the most mysterious of them all. It starts with a lone diver, a whole lot of curiosity, and a discovery that would uncover a language that had been lost for tens of thousands of years. So it's 1985, and a diver named Henri Kosker is exploring off the coast of Marseille in France. He's about 100 feet below the surface when he spots this dark hole in a cliff face, just barely big enough to swim into. Probably against his better judgment, he decides to go in. That hole opened up into this dark underwater tunnel, stretching over 200 feet upwards into just pitch-black darkness. It was incredibly narrow, super dangerous. One wrong move, and that's it. He had to turn back, but he just couldn't shake that mystery. Where did that tunnel go? He came back in 1991. But this time with a team. And at the end of that terrifying tunnel, they surfaced inside a huge, completely sealed cave. And the walls, they were covered in art. Over 500 paintings of animals. Some, like penguins, that hadn't been seen anywhere near there for millennia. And carbon dating? It showed the art was an unbelievable 27,000 years old. But right there, among all this amazing art, was something deeply weird. Dozens and dozens of stencils of human hands,
but many of them had fingers missing. At first, scientists figured they were looking at injuries, or maybe some kind of ritual mutilation. But as they found more and more, a new, much wilder theory started to take shape.
Scientists now think these weren't injuries at all. They were a code. The bent fingers were actually a complex sign language, a way to communicate, captured right there on the stone. This wasn't just cave art. It was quite possibly the oldest written language ever found, predating other forms of writing by an incredible 20,000 years. And it was all hidden away in a secret cave, found because one diver got curious about a dark hole in a cliff.
So you have these three stories, right? One driven by a drought, another by a fishing net, and the last one by just pure curiosity. And they all show us that history isn't always something we find. Sometimes it finds us.
A simple search for water uncovers a buried dynasty. A routine check of the day's catch brings back a species from 65 million years ago. And a risky dive into a dark tunnel reveals a lost language from the dawn of humanity. These stories, they prove that the greatest discoveries are often waiting just out of sight, just hidden by chance.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets, what other lost worlds or forgotten stories are still out there, buried deep in the earth or hidden in the sea, just waiting for the right person to stumble upon them by pure, beautiful accident?